Hey everybody, it is Lexi with the Legacy Podcast. Hey everybody that's joining us from where? Instagram, Facebook. We are live doing our next recording and we have an amazing special guest here with you. So I'll be hosting this week's podcast, which is titled How They See Us. So, but before we get into our guest, I am here with the beautiful co-host.
Hey, everybody, it's Kia, your favorite inspirationalist.
So, guys and gals who are joining us, we have an amazing guest here with us today. He's more like family now. We've been talking for a minute.
Right.
And
We
he
cousins.
knows family. Right, we
Right.
related now. We're cousins, so it is what it is. We'll shake hands later. Cousins.
We cousins.
But we are here with Mr. Dwayne Wharton. He is a Philadelphia native.
Yeah.
Husband to Sean Johnson. Sean Johnson. Father of two young girls.
Yep. Zola and Maya.
Zola and Maya. Oh, I love those names.
Right?
Zola
Aren't they
and
pretty?
Maya.
They're like exotics.
Really? I know. They're going to do great things. Anyway,
Yeah,
they
that's
come
the
from
plan.
some great stock.
That is the plan.
They didn't have any choice. Director of External Affairs at the Food Trust.
Correct.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Westchester undergrad. Masters from Temple.
Wow.
Now, there's a lot of story that helps us get to where we are. And so because of that, I think it's probably but I'll let you get into that, what allowed you to gain interest into what you do. So with that, guys, tell us a little bit more about what got you into the activism, even a little bit of the work that you do today. Did your history have anything to do with it?
Yeah. Of course
Upbringing?
it does, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in Germantown, one of six. And we were talking a little bit earlier that, you know, who you are today, and people may see that, they don't know the backstory. So, yeah, just like a lot of other people, you know, we didn't have everything that we needed, and we grew up, you know, under some hard circumstances around drugs and violence and separation and scarcity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there was lots of things I didn't have, but there are certainly plenty of things that I did have.
That's
so
true.
one is a supportive community. And growing up in Germantown, Duval Street, the Dead End, you know, neighbors, old heads, and of course my bulls. I mean, you know, that was everything back then.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got lucky, I think, you know, in terms of my mom being able to send me to Catholic school, getting a
What
good
Catholic school did you
foundation.
go to?
I went to St. Madeline's Sophie, which is now like a
Are they
circus
still-
art school or something. It's
right. Is
bizarre,
that the one
you
off of
know.
Green Street?
Yeah, Green and Upsall.
Okay.
It's-
Yeah.
They were in
it's-
Catholic
it's-
school. Okay.
And now,
Sacrilege.
if you want to become
Trapeze artist.
trapeze art, Cirque du
Yeah.
Soleil,
Cirque du
maybe.
Soleil.
From
Yeah.
an altar boy to a
you
trapeze
go.
artist at this
Listen.
point. Right.
Swinging
Yeah.
chandelier. Okay.
So now I was just really active, you know, at the school with, I don't know if you remember, like CYO, it's like the Catholic Youth Organization.
That
so
sounds
we were,
familiar.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we were doing like service, and we also had the basketball team and stuff like
Yes,
that.
I know.
So,
yeah.
but it really did put me on a good path. But,
Okay.
you know, once I got to high school, though, coming from a class of like the same 20 kids from kindergarten to a big high school, which is Cardinal Doherty, I
Wow.
just had a lot of challenges. So I got kicked out of there, then got moved over to King, and then went over to Jersey, then graduated from Roxborough.
Okay.
And I think, you know, this one man, Will Crawford, really took an interest
Yeah.
in me and connected me to Westchester University, where
What was
I ended
his
up going.
position?
He was actually the admissions officer at Kutztown or something.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But, you know, he was like, Westchester's a good fit for you.
Okay.
Okay.
So introduced me to someone, Gene Leiter, and got me into a summer program. I got the support I needed and stumbled a little bit, but then I got my rhythm.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
We were just talking about rhythm because, you
We
know,
were.
when it comes to raising kids, being kids, and things like that, you notice that there's like this transition that happens.
yeah.
Where they go
and it's
crazy.
so, it's so
know.
Where
funny.
they lose their mind.
I have no idea what you're talking about. 17 and 18-year-old daughters. Are you kidding me?
Y'all got me nervous because I got
What?
a 7-year-old and one on the way.
It's real.
I don't know what's about to happen, but I do know my
I
crazy.
can't wait to see.
Growing
Right?
up, that's,
Right?
But you know
I
what?
can't-
One thing I hear him even saying, and I think our kids will be okay, is that original foundation.
Yes,
you
it's
know,
key.
it's like even it's like the church. You know,
They come back.
You
Yeah.
always come
Come
back
back.
around, and that's when you find your rhythm in life.
No
you
doubt.
know, when you're like, okay, I'm stable now.
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah.
gonna come,
And
but
it's true.
I can do this now.
Studies have shown like that there is like a chemical imbalance that happens
Oh.
around adolescence.
Yeah, that frontal lobe,
Like
the development
literally,
is just not
yeah,
there.
it's like
Yeah.
literal. I mean,
I
the
know
pastor,
Yeah.
Reverend Wally, even says it all the time when he does a baby dedication.
Yeah.
He's like, it's true. There is something that switches on or off or whatever
right.
that, takes you down that path.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's interesting that to segue, honestly, to a good point of what we want to talk about today.
Yeah. We got a fair game.
The activism piece.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get a little heavy, then we're gonna get a little light.
Yeah.
We're gonna lift some weight, then we're gonna do some cardio.
Right, and do some stretches.
Yeah, do some stretches to get it down. This is me, the pregnant one, using workout quotes, but I get it in it sometimes.
Yeah.
So when it comes to adolescence, one of the things that we see happen a lot, especially for our young black and brown boys, is there's this stigma that's placed on them very, very, very early.
Yeah.
I remember even reading at one point an article that said that prisons are built based on the ability of a third grade black boy.
Reading levels,
reading level.
Yep.
So if it's true that these things can happen at adolescence, and so it would happen to everyone, black, brown, yellow, orange, whatever, why do you think there's so much pressure put on young black males to be held accountable to this expectation to act differently? And they're considered savages if they don't. They're considered, out of character.
Or wilding out.
If they act 12.
No, we don't have that luxury. I mean, even when we talk about over-policing that happens in communities, that officers misidentify black youth, seeing them as being older than what they really are.
Okay.
I mean, so that implicit bias is a real thing that others see in you. And then also, like, internalized stuff as well, our expectations. When we told, like, what is it? Men don't cry, right? And suck it up, or like you're honestly, like, your masculinity is defined through your sexual prowess as well.
Yeah.
And
how many notches and
right. So I mean, we do a bad job in raising boys.
And it's generational, because what's interesting you say about the point of don't cry. My husband, my son, and I were having like a conversation. And my husband, it was something to do with basketball. They were having a dispute over basketball, and my son just began to cry. And my husband was like, well, what are you crying for? Like, what are you crying for?
Right.
But I always give him that space to cry, because even though you're masculine, there's still kind of a little feminine. Like, just let it out.
Yeah.
So when you do get older, you're not holding it all in, because what happens is, if you're not letting it out that way, then it'll become
you'll find another way.
You'll get really enraged, and that's what I've seen have happened with my son, where he's trying to balance the energies of how he feels.
Right.
But if he's not taught or given a space to cry, given a space to be mad, given a space to be okay, he won't know what to do with himself.
But it's that. But you also have to balance with like what the world is putting up against us. That we have to be hard.
So when he go out of the house, he's not crying all the time.
It's a protection as well.
Right.
And I think that's
and that's what his dad like. What are you crying
for? So what's
for?
that right balance? Right.
So how important then? And not for nothing. So things wasn't really there. Didn't know, whatever. He couldn't really help out much in certain areas. But my brother, his father wasn't in the household. So I think when we talk about that balance, like you were saying, that the world is expecting, how important do you think, especially now in the youth that you may work with in adults, how important is it now to make sure that there is balance? So we can't do anything about if the dad or mom chooses not to be involved, right? But so that's where the community, I would assume, come in. And so how important is it for kids, male or female, to see that dynamic, the woman and the man feeding into them?
Right.
Yeah, I can only speak for myself, and it's tricky. Like, I have two daughters, and it was easier raising them because I wanted them to be athletic and to be strong. And they also had room to play with dolls and be feminine and wear dresses, right? So, but for boys, it's typically like you got to be one way.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I have a bunch of nephews, and I spend a lot of time with them. And I think, the way I parent is different than I think a lot of other men. And how I engage with them. So, like, we don't tolerate, like, homophobia in the crib. And we don't really tolerate misogyny in the crib. So, like, but I don't attack them for it. I really I try to redirect it. And we have these conversations just about, like, switching, like, the paradigm about how you view these things.
So let me ask you this. Do you raise your kids based off of your personal experience more so, or off of how the world is going to perceive them and how you think they need to be?
I don't know what the secret sauce and magic formula is. I think it's a combination of all of it, right? And it's not just me.
No, it is.
You know, it's what I do, but it's also my wife, who's a good balance. But we also have uncles and aunties and coaches and teachers, so it's everybody influencing, and also it's their peers as well, right?
I was gonna say,
influence.
I know,
like that's huge.
Especially when that frontal lobe thing shifts, they start listening to their peers.
I know.
It's crazy. You know, one of the things that I heard you guys mention too, as you're talking about the impact and especially with the community piece.
Yeah.
So it feels like at sometimes there's like this breakdown that's happening in the community. So sometimes you feel like the community is there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like the community is running.
I know.
Right now the space feels really hard and it's pressing. And I don't know if it's because people feel nervous about stepping up and kind of being there.
I know.
So what has your experience been?
Yeah. I think I honestly have, like, I've gained a lot of privilege in my life.
Okay.
Through my education, through my employment, through like me being in a different position.
Yeah.
So like I do have a community, and but it's diverse, right? So I'm very much rooted in like being African centered in my family and all. But I also have a community like in Germantown and Mount Airy where folks are of all different socioeconomic, racial backgrounds.
Yeah, that's true.
And all of it has influence, you know, and I'm fortunate that I can like send my kid out and know for the most part that the house probably doesn't have a gun in it.
Yeah.
Right? And like all their friends can come over and they know that they can be fed, that the lights will be on.
Right.
Like these are things that I didn't have the privilege of growing up with.
Yeah.
So I've created this for my fam, but it wasn't what I grew up with. You know?
And I'm sure that inspired a lot, you know, of what you're doing. You always want your kids to have more or better or whatever that may be.
I hope so, right? We all do.
That's the goal.
Do you think our communities are lacking leadership?
Ugh.
Like black leadership, like when you think about the civil rights movement, we like had leaders that we were following.
I know. I don't necessarily. I may have like years ago because we're all growing and evolving, and that whole notion of like a leader showing and demonstrating, that's cool. Yeah. But nobody's going to save us but ourselves.
Right. True indeed.
So I say yes to a degree, but we should be open to learning. Like, you know, whoever that older, or even for me, like even younger, right? Like look at the kids who, you know, are looking at like gun violence in the U.S., right? Yeah. I mean, so they're inspiring in itself, right? So whoever it is, you should be looking up to and trying to figure out how to make your life better. Right. But I don't think there's one person that has all the answers.
Yeah, we all have a responsibility.
Want to get that responsibility.
Yeah, we all have a responsibility
for someone to have anyway, right? Because no one's perfect and they all have flaws. So
exactly. And we're all kind of like picking up on different parts of issues, you know? Your piece may not be the issue that I may be leading or I'm passionate about. However, you know, someone else's thing may be their thing, and it's like we all have this responsibility to grow. But
one thing I will say is that like it's too much individualism.
So that's
collectively.
Okay,
like
that's why I think I said about the leader. Follow one, and we all
If I'm good, then that's all that matters, and that's a broken approach.
It is.
So like we gotta look out for
mentality.
each other and for everybody, and we don't do that.
So it's like I got mine. So
I'm speaking very generally.
No. Seriously, I've had that mentality and have wrestled with it. It's like, listen, I got mine. You need to get yours.
Yeah, because I work hard.
And then it's like, but wait, hold on.
Yeah, so that's what big issues and small issues as well. So I'm just thinking about like national policies, right? And we're looking at like this border issue that's happening right now.
How about that?
And the conditions that are happening, but yet we're good and we're going to turn up and we're not going to worry about it.
And we're going to turn our back. Right? We're just, you know, it's not my
because
kid.
it's not us.
Not
or because
mine.
it's not
we're
black
not being affected
we've already seen, and I'm going to pause for a minute, but we've already seen that it has been us, New Orleans.
Continues to be.
You know,
exactly.
the crime.
Right. It is us.
Right.
Yeah,
so I don't think we
us,
want to turn our back. But for those who are just joining us on our social media platforms, Kia and Lexi, your expert in evolution. I forgot to introduce myself properly earlier. But we are here with Dwayne Wharton, and he is